You know, this idea of people would rather be addicts. No, men don't want to be on the street, sleeping on the street. Women don't want to prostitute themselves. So nobody convinced me the addict wants to be an addict. He wants the opportunity, he or she wants the opportunity to not be an addict.
Against this national tide, pulling everyone towards punishment, to go in the opposite direction, with no outside money, with no local support, one man led a team that instead called for treating each individual as an individual, never giving up hope in the human spirit, driven only by the moral compass of Herbert Klein and a group of individuals who loved not only Judge Klein, but what he stood for and what he believed in, because we all believed in it.
It was a statement by us that the human beings are worth redeeming. We started what was known as diversion and treatment program, which eventually became the drug court.
I was petrified, and I was petrified because the general feelings in the community was that everybody that was an addict was also a criminal, and that jail was the place they belonged.
Our first judge was Stanley Goldstein.
And I said, not Stanley Goldstein, whatever you do, not Stanley. You know, I was looking for someone more photogenic, younger, perhaps female judge.
All rise. Circuit Court in Fort Dade County is now in session. The Honorable Stanley Goldstein presiding.
Instead, they're giving us this ex-cop from Brooklyn, wears his Brooklyn accent on his sleeve. He's crusty, he's crotchety, he's cranky. I don't want to work with this guy. I want to work with a drug court judge.
I want to see a little enthusiasm out there. You are clean now, I hope?
Oh, yes.
You haven't been getting anything over to jail?
Nah.
What are you grinning about? Okay. It's easier to stay clean than it is to get clean, so you got one step on.
Well, it turns out that Stanley Goldstein set the mold for drug court judges for years to come.
My name is Robert Russell. I'm a judge in Buffalo, New York, presiding over a Veterans Treatment Court. The inspiration is the men and women who so honorably served this country and given of themselves. As a presiding judge and being a judge the last 23 years now, in 2008 I was presiding over a drug treatment court and also a mental health treatment court. And during the periods of time, I have worked with veterans who have served. But this particular veteran I was working with in the mental health treatment court, he was a Vietnam veteran, wasn't doing well, and that was the report we were receiving from our local mental health treatment providers. When he was in court this particular day, I was addressing why he wasn't really engaged in his program, and I had a couple of veterans to speak with him. One veteran that was in the courtroom was my project director, Hank Porowski, who since passed, and Jack O'Connor. Both of them were also Vietnam veterans. And I asked if they would go out in the hallway and speak with this gentleman. About 20 minutes later, they returned to court, and there was a total different disposition about this person. He was standing totally erect, looking directly at me, and he was standing in a military posture that they call parade rest. And he said, "Judge, I'm going to try harder." From that point, it really struck me how one veteran speaking to another veteran can really bring about encouragement and inspiration. We began to then discuss locally what more can we do to afford the best opportunities for our men and women that have served and being successful in stability, regaining stability in their life, and also sobriety and mental health. From that point, I had a meeting at our local United States Department of Veteran Affairs VA hospital, asked them if they would provide a staff person to assist our court and work with our court on this concept of a veterans treatment court. A number of veterans from the community wanted to volunteer on creating this concept. And so now we started Veterans Treatment Court in January 2008. There's over or close to 200 Veterans Treatment Court that have now started around the country, probably close to 100 more in the planning stages. And these courts are set up and based on the treatment court concept, similar to drug treatment court, mental health treatment court. But in addition, we have the United States Department of Veteran Affairs, and I'm very grateful to General Shinseki, the Secretary for the VA, for placing staff people in the Veterans Treatment Court around the country. We also have a representative from our United States Department of Veteran Affairs Benefit Office in the courtroom that assists veterans with the benefits that they earn through their service. We also have representatives from our vet centers and for housing, for family counseling, and whatever the needs of the veterans, it's a one-stop location. We'll do all we can to provide and assist those benefits. But the other nice piece is veteran volunteers from our community who work one-on-one with veterans to help encourage and motivate these veterans to address the underlying health care issues. To have a young veteran to say that they're homeless or they not unified with their family, that's probably what really sticks out in my mind and their heart. And to then have them go through Veterans Treatment Court, work with a mentor to address the underlying health care, to be employed, number of them back in college, pursuing their college education, number of them graduating from college, and truly carrying on that gift that they gave to this country. And that is one of an awesome person who's given so much, and now they're able to continue to give. And so we're grateful for that.
In this Knox County courtroom, clapping is encouraged, and the judge never wears a robe.
All right, let's go ahead and get started.
When I look at the human beings I deal with, I see what they could become.
Judge Chuck Cerny helped launch what he calls a new problem-solving court.
You know, we're saving taxpayers a huge amount of money. It's very, very rare for them to have new offenses.
His new court is rooted in special drug treatment courts like this one.
How have y'all done this week?
For years, they have focused on getting addicts help through counseling, treatment, and into jobs rather than just locking them up for crimes like petty theft and public intoxication.
If you can turn a life around, that means that there is no further cost of incarcerating that person. Maybe that person pays back the money they stole. Maybe they start getting a job and paying taxes.
Back in January, Judge Cerny quietly jump-started another second chance court focused on military veterans in trouble with the law.
I'm emotionally connected to it.
It was very challenging at first. There's a lot of rules you got to abide by.
42-year-old Jeff Helper is a former police officer from the Memphis area who also served in the Army during Operation Desert Storm in the early 90s.
I was in a jail cell by myself.
A year ago, this veteran and lawman found himself behind bars, charged with assault after a fight with his wife. If convicted, he faced 3 to 5 years in jail and thousands of dollars in legal fees.
The agreement was, once completion of this program, I'll go back and the charges were to be dismissed and expunged.
Jeff just became the first graduate of the Knox County Veterans Treatment Court. He fast-tracked in 6 months a counseling and work program that will take most veterans a year to complete.
It's just one big support system is what it is.
And Jeff credits a big part of his success to this man, Frank Bolmer, a Vietnam veteran and volunteer mentor.
We think as veterans they deserve a second chance in most cases, and we want to see Jeff given that.
Frank has been amazing. He has been by my side every chance I needed him. He was always there and ready to help.
The first week, I think Jeff and I were on the phone maybe 3 or 4 times a week. But after that, Jeff didn't have a lot of issues.
I started looking back inside myself and trying to make a better picture of what needed to happen.
Knox County deputies are now ensuring veterans are identified early in the jail intake process, asking specifically if new inmates have served in the military. And in the month of August alone, of the 37 potential inmates, screeners for the program say more than half qualify to enter the treatment course.
How do you see yourself 5 or 10 years from now?
Being back on patrol, maybe working my way into a detective position, hopefully.
What else is going on with you?
The judge in this court of second chances isn't a military veteran, but says he's proud to see the justice system now working to better serve men and women who serve this country.
By taking some bumps in the road or some turns that they weren't proud of, seeing that turnaround is good. It really is good.
A couple of weeks ago, you heard the story of Dean Powell, who was has served a little time in prison. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
And but that was pre-veteran court. So tell us your story again, Dean, real quick.
Well, thanks again for having me on, and it's always a privilege to speak out for righteousness. And I'm so excited about what's going on in Veterans Court, and I think we're going to talk about that later. But back in when I came home from Vietnam the second time, unfortunately I came home with a drug problem that I was trying to sedate a lot of pain that I had experienced during my experiences in recon in the infantry in Vietnam. And through my self-medicating program, I ended up doing 7 years for interstate transportation of a lot of stuff to get myself high and other people, and it was really a lot of things I was doing. I was making a lot of wrong decisions, and through that, I came in to a courtroom where a judge looked at me and had very little empathy and no sympathy of what I was experiencing. He had one thing in mind, and that was to go along with what the prosecutor said. And they made a judgment on where I was and what I'd done. And as I say, I ended up doing 7 years in prison for it. And this system that's going on right now with Veterans Treatment Court just elates me. I get so excited about it because these guys actually care. I've been fortunate enough as a mentor to get into the court and actually see the judge sitting here. As I've told him, he doesn't judge people, he encourages people. And I'm very fortunate to be a part of seeing how this is helping other men in a system, because I'm getting a chance to mentor them and help them transition from coming out of an adversary situation in combat to come back to the streets and let them know that, hey man, there is peace here if you'll just listen to the people who are concerned about you. And this program that's put together is to help encourage you to get involved in something positive in the community.